what she does. Go ahead. Welcome to another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. Today's featured car, a 1974 914 Porsche 6. Now, if you're an aficionado of these cars, you know they stopped making the 6 in '72, which makes this one even more intriguing. It's a tribute, I guess you could call it, but extremely well done. And before we meet the owner, Eric, let's bring in a gentleman whose father was the head designer for Porsche for, well, over 20 years. Hans Lapine. Hans, come on in.
Hi, Jay.
Good to see you. Nice to meet you. And your dad, well, was a hero to a lot of Porsche files. Yeah.
Obviously.
Your dad was chief designer from '69 to when?
To '89.
To '89. That's quite a run.
Oh, yeah, he had a good run there.
Okay, but he was obviously instrumental in changes and things to the car as well.
He was instrumental in the changes that followed after the launch of the car that led to the 916, which was this model, literally as we see it, with the added flares, and the roof was welded on, and it sported I think a 2.4 S motor.
Now, I was a kid when this car came out. I just started working at a car dealership, and I remember these were not sold at Porsche dealerships. They were sold as Volkswagens in America. Volkswagen.
Actually,
Porsche,
they were imported by Porsche and Audi back then.
Right. Okay.
It was always the Porsche Audi logo.
Right, that's right.
But Volkswagen of America imported them.
I see.
Under the big picture.
Right, because this was seen as a low-cost alternative to the 911.
Yes,
Yeah.
they originally tried it with the 912, but the 912 was a little out of reach price-wise,
Right.
and this was a joint venture between Volkswagen and Porsche.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it probably costs almost as much to make a 912 as it did a 911. Right?
Absolutely.
So they really wasn't saving anything.
No.
So this was a curious car. It wasn't embraced by the Porsche fraternity when it came out, right?
Not really.
It was seen more as a Volkswagen than a Porsche.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It was the Volks Porsche in Germany,
Oh,
actually.
Volks Porsche, okay.
No, that was the
joke.
the joke.
Yeah, okay. But I have to admit, I was always taken by the 6-cylinder version. That seemed like a very sexy car when I was a kid.
It's an extremely competitive car,
Yeah.
which you can beat 911s all day long with this thing.
Yeah, and it was a 2-liter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say what we have here. Now, they stopped making the 6 in '72, correct?
Yes.
And this is the '74. So obviously this is what we call it, a restomod, a built-up car.
I'd say a tribute to...
Tribute, okay, tribute. So it's a 914 that's been sort of
Heavily modified.
6-cylinderized, I guess you could
Yes, but
Yeah.
the nice thing about this car is he used period-correct accessories and parts.
Right. Now, as a kid, were you a huge fan of these? Did you like these when you were younger, or were you a 911 guy?
I actually liked the 914. I always
Yeah.
had a soft spot for ugly ducklings.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was considered
It's an
ugly
underdog.
Yeah, I mean, but it was fantastic in that it was mid-engine, which almost nobody was doing. You had to go to Pantera or Lamborghini Miura to get mid-engine
Yes,
at that
it
period.
was big bucks.
And actually predates a lot of those, except maybe the Mangusta or some others.
Right.
And the roof came off,
Roof came off.
so you got a convertible with 2 trunks,
Right.
lots of space. I mean, it was quite practical, and well, I wouldn't call it a pretty car, more like a handsome car. You know?
Well said.
Yeah. Like a handsome woman.
Exactly.
Why, Miss Worthington's a handsome woman.
Your best friend.
Yes. A handsome
She's a
woman.
friend.
Yeah, but but they grow on you. That's the fascinating thing about them.
Oh, they've taken off on the market. They were, a little bit ignored for so long, but in the last 10 years, people started appreciating them more and more.
Yeah.
And people got more and more into the history, and they have a lot to offer.
Well, I think there's, to paraphrase an old saying, 911 ships raise all boats, don't they?
Yes.
I mean, 911s have sort of priced themselves out of the
You can't
average
buy one.
enthusiast.
You can't buy one.
You can't
No,
buy one
no.
now. I mean, you can almost buy a new Porsche for what you're paying for
That's cheaper.
secondhand. Yeah,
It's
the
cheaper to buy a
911.
new Porsche.
Right. So consequently, these and 944s, 924s,
Yeah.
they all seem to be going up in price,
Right.
which is interesting. All right, very cool. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for your dad's
Thank you, Jay.
history, and
Absolutely.
we appreciate it. Let's bring in Eric Shea. Eric,
Hey, Jay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, very nice job. Tell us the story on this car. I know you've always been a Porsche fan.
I have, yeah. Well, I started out as a Volkswagen guy.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, and when you're rebuilding bugs, you kind of look at this, you go, hey, I can do this. It's got a Volkswagen engine in it at the time, you know. It's got 2 trunks. It's got disc brakes. Like you said, you know, the top comes off, stores in the back, and away you go. So, I mean, it was just kind of a natural progression for me to kind of fall into this car.
Did you ever drive it as a 914, or did you just buy it and immediately convert it to a 6?
This one was purchased and immediately kind of converted into a 6. I actually bought this as a tub for $300.
Oh, wow. What year was that?
That was, I'm going to say probably about 10 to 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I bought it as a tub. You know, here in California, they're rust-free, so I had to come out to, I think, Northern California, picked up the tub, and started going to town on it. So, but I did have 4s before that. So.
Now, I don't know much about these. What was the structural difference between a 914 and 914-6? Was the substructure much stiffer, reinforced, or what?
Not really. On the GT cars, the factory made 41 GT cars, and then they made 300 kits for privateers to race. And on the GT cars, if you look up under the fender well in the rear, you'll see a stiffening kit here. But that was really meant to kind of handle the wider tires and things like that. And under race conditions, they would find that the chassis would split or flex in certain areas. But no, on the factory 6s, there was really no difference in the chassis at all.
So what do? We put the flares on.
The flares are part of the GT kit.
And nicely done. I can't tell. These are nicely done.
Yep.
And the flares in front as well.
Yeah, factory flares.
Wider wheel.
Yeah, 7 and 8s.
Right. Okay.
15, so it's more of a vintage look, and that's the way they were.
Why the 4 hood pins? It seems like 2 would pretty much do.
You know, this is the way the car was raced at Le Mans in 1970.
Oh,
so
it was.
This was a class winner at Le Mans in 1970. Came in 6th behind 917s and 512s.
Wow.
So that's really the recreation here. What I did with this car, I wanted to have a GT. So I went to every extreme to make this car as GT as possible.
And this is battery disconnect?
Battery disconnect, yeah.
Okay. And I see you even got the proper gas cap?
Yeah.
Did you make that one, or is that a proper gas cap?
We made that one, yeah. You know, this was a 70 tub, so I didn't go too crazy with, you know, you can find all those parts and everything, but it was just one of those things where, you know, with a 74 car, and
And what was the advantage of having a longer stud? What was the thinking behind that? I see a lot of Porsches with that. I don't see a lot of other manufacturers do that. What was the reason?
It's actually mandated in some of the PCA and POC rules, where you have to have at least the length of the stud sticking out beyond the nut, so that they know from a visual standpoint.
I see. Okay.
And also it helps in changing the tires quickly too, when you can just line them up real quick and you've got them there and you can just zip them on.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Very cool. Let's see what else we got. 5-speed.
Yeah. 5-speed 901.
Okay. And were regular 914s always 5-speed, or were they 4-speed?
Yeah, always 5-speed.
Okay. Now let's come around to the back. I mean, you really can't see the motor, can you?
You can.
Let's see.
Pop it open.
Go ahead.
She's stuffed in there.
Well, it is stuffed in there.
And that's a 2.5 liter twin plug 6-cylinder.
Okay. And what is this motor out of? A 911?
Yeah, it would have been out of an early car, like a 66 or 67 with the aluminum case. They, when you build up 2.5s and you build up a high performance motor, it's always good to use those aluminum cases versus the magnesium cases.
Now, did this use the 901 style transmission?
Yeah.
So it's the dog leg over the first, and then
Right.
Oh, okay. That's what I've got, a 911T.
Yep.
A 71. I think 2 years they use that transmission. Is that what it was?
With your car, that's called a 911 transmission. That's 70 and 71.
Right.
901 was used prior to that.
Oh, okay.
And then 911 transmission, then 915 transmission.
And you're in the car business yourself, right? You rebuild brakes?
Yeah, we restore brakes. Like the car you're talking about, your car, the brown car, we did the brakes on that car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Explain, that looks not familiar to me. Did you make that up?
No, that's the way the European cars were badged.
Okay.
So this is a 914-6 VW Porsche badge, and that's the way the GTs would have come. The 4s over in Europe would just say 914 VW Porsche. So they badged them as VW Porsches in Europe, and they only badged them as Porsches here in the United States.
And this weighed less than the 911, correct?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
About 2,200 pounds
Wow.
in standard trim, and this one's probably around 2,000.
Okay. And now the Jacksonville, Florida Brumos Porsche, what is that? Is that some,
Just a lot of nods. You know, we have the Wolfsburg Rally plate, which is our nod to Volkswagen.
Okay.
This one is our nod to Brumos, where Hurley
oh, okay.
got the championship
Really
in this
Haywood.
car.
Yeah, sure. Let's. Can you open the trunk? Let's
Yeah,
see
you
what
bet.
that looks like.
Again, just kind of racing touches that they
Okay.
did back in the day. Everything was lighter, so they would take the latches off here.
Yeah.
and
Oh,
they'd-
look at that.
They'd stick a 356 hubcap badge on there, so none of the latches. All of this is fiberglass.
Boy, you've really made it accurate.
Yeah.
You see so many bad tribute things. You know, you know, sometimes the word tribute has come to sort of insulting.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is a.
Thank
this
you.
would be replica in the truest sense of the word.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was the idea. The idea was, you know, with the RS, and you're familiar with the 911 RS.
Right, right.
It came in a touring and a lightweight version.
But the touring one's the one you want to have. They're-
Yeah, and-
if you're going to go anywhere.
Right, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with this.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
never made a GT in a touring; it was strictly a race car. So I decided to try to make one GT, but also you could put your bags in the trunk and take it up to Jackson Hole and not get beat up by the time you're there. In fact, we took it across the country. We drove it from LA to Jacksonville
Yeah.
when the 914 was a featured market at Amelia Island.
And what is the breather?
That's the oil
Oil
vent.
breather. Okay.
Yep,
oil
so
vent. Okay. It blows into there.
high
okay.
RPMs.
Gotcha.
You can blow oil
Gotcha.
through the
And
oil
there's
catch
obviously
tank.
no air conditioning or anything like that.
Roll the windows down.
Roll the windows down. Your international symbol for rolling windows down.
Yeah, exactly.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yep.
Okay, and these are the shock towers.
Yep. And the cups actually are where the latches would go
Okay.
when you put the top in the back, and the top would stick here. And when you would put the top in the back of these cars, it would only take up an inch of trunk space.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The top would stay right here on top.
Yeah.
Click into those white things, and then the latches would go in those cups.
Nicely done. Do you have? Is there a radio? No.
No.
No radio. So this is a pure out road race car.
Yeah.
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 And how long did it take you to do this?
Well, that's a great question. I probably about 7 years collecting parts. I'm an
Right.
admin on 914world.com.
Okay.
And so there I would be able to find occasional parts in the classified section or hear about people, you know, selling this part or that part. So I would collect all the GT parts I could.
Right.
And then it took about 3 years to build after we got all the parts together.
Are those Fuchs style wheels?
They are. Mhm.
Okay.
With the
Fuchs style or
RSR.
Fuchs, the Fuchs wheels.
They are Fuchs wheels
Okay.
with the RSR finish on
Okay.
them.
Oh, I see. They're kind of a satin. Would you call
Yeah,
that?
frosted,
Frosted, yeah,
frosted
yeah.
anodized.
Boy, it's just great.
Thank you.
It's just great. Now, do you get any purists jump on you because it's a tribute? You know how Porsche goes.
Yeah, but not the 914 guys.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
being the bastard stepchild, you know, of the mark, they've always been a little more open to
Yeah.
doing all sorts of things. So, I think the 914 guys, they have this moniker NARP, you know, not a real Porsche.
Right.
And so they wear that like they
Right,
wear that like a badge of honor.
Badge of honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'll find guys putting Chevy V8s in these things.
No, you don't want to
know.
do that. That's going a bit too far.
Yeah, but they do V8s, they do Subaru engines, they do all kinds of things. So this type of a thing, they really actually
And
embrace.
as I remember, the original 6 only had, what, 125 horse? Something
It did,
like
yeah.
that?
Yeah, it's a little 2-liter.
What are you looking at here? 2 1/4?
This is probably about 250, maybe
Really?
maybe a little more. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a twin plug 2.5, high compression.
Well, we probably got to take it for a ride and see what
Yeah,
it does.
probably a good idea.
Well, initial impression, only a quarter of a mile from the garage. The greenhouse is great. I mean, you got plenty of, nothing blocks your eyesight here. You know, the A-pillar is still thin enough so you can see where everything is. Nice, you know, most modern cars, the windshield's right here. So you actually see a bit of sky, you can actually see an overhead light. Even though this car is, God, just about almost 50 years old.
Yeah,
It still
almost.
looks relatively modern. Is that the stock placement of the fuel gauge?
No, that's
Okay.
where the radio would be.
Okay, that's right. Yeah,
That's where
yeah.
they put the fuel gauge in the GTs.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Because they had to put 911 instrumentation over here.
Right.
With the motor, so you have the temperature and your pressure gauge over there. So that took the fuel gauge out, and they had to put
Have
it
you ever
over.
driven an actual GT, a real one?
I have not, no.
Okay.
No, I've seen a few of them, but never have driven one, so.
Certainly feels sporty,
Yeah.
but it's not so loud that it drones, you know?
Not too bad. We did, you know, we drove it across the country, and that was one of the biggest questions I got, you know, didn't this thing just beat you up? And
Yeah.
It's like, no, I actually had a pretty good time.
And you know the thing is, I have so many cars that don't have radios. Now you got your iPhone, and you get one of those speakers you just plug it
Right,
into.
right.
You put it on the seat, and it's as good as any sound. Well, I don't know if it's good. For me, it seems as good as any sound system,
It
you
is,
know?
yeah.
I mean, this must have been the most neutral handling Porsche up to that time, would you
I
say?
would think so, yeah. Yeah, they were still trying to get the trailing throttle oversteer out of the 911
Yeah.
in those days.
You know, it's so funny, I always mention this, but I've got that F1 McLaren, and they made a big deal. No power steering, no power booster, no power brake. Well, duh. Hello. Feels very nice.
Isn't that fun?
Boy, it's a wonderful car. Is this a brand new windshield? I barely see a chip in it.
No, it's new to the car. When I did that cross country trip, I got a crack in the windshield, so I found this is another windshield out of a 6 and put it in. So it's just, I think we're just lucky, pretty good shape.
So what did this motor come out of?
It would have come out of a 66 or a 67 because
Oh, that early, yeah.
Yeah, because those are the aluminum blocks.
Right.
So they're much more durable, much stronger than the magnesium blocks.
Was it hard to find one of those engines?
Not then, you know, believe it or not, I think I got that motor for like $2 grand. Nowadays it's 20 grand just for the case. You know?
Wow. Oh, it's wonderful.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's really good. It is great. And quite smooth. The mirrors don't distort and all that, you know? And do you have Porsche brakes on this right now or something else?
No, I'm just a firm believer in stock, you know, factory kind of stuff. So
Right.
this has 908 brakes up front and 914.6 GT calipers in the rear. So that's what would have come on the GT.
I'm gonna run out of road before I hit there. You haven't stiffened the subframe or anything.
We do have the GT factory stiffening in the back.
No, but I mean, you didn't weld anything into the tub or anything of that, did you? No. Well, you realize when this car was built, Porsche as a company was, I don't even, it wasn't even 30 years old, was it? Figure what, 40, well, 48, right?
1970, so
Yeah. I mean, it's a long time ago. It was a revolutionary car. I think they just built it too cheaply, you know? So the reputation was quite innovative.
I think it was. I think what really hurt it, and they figured it out in about 1973, but what really hurt it was it came out with a 1.7 liter Type 4 motor.
Right.
And the press just like,
Yeah.
you know, everybody's wanted an entry-level Porsche.
Yeah.
You know, they've always wanted, oh, get us one that, you know, doesn't cost $1 million, but goes like stink.
Right.
But, you know, it had a 1.7 liter and it was anemic. You know,
Yeah.
it just didn't do it.
See what she does. 70 miles an hour, turning just about $3 grand. That's nice.
Yeah, if you look at the temp over on the far left, it just stays there all day long.
Perfect.
That's nice and cold for an air-cooled car.
Yeah, we'll never see another air-cooled motor again, I guess. I don't know what kind of breakthrough it would take.
No, I think, you know, the multi-valve issue, you can't really get the fuel economy that they need. But these were fun. Somehow they got in my blood, you know?
Yeah. Very cool. I want to thank Eric and Hans. It sounds like some old Saturday Night Live sketch. Eric and Hans, you pumped you up. But anyway, you know, just a wonderful car to drive. You know, I've never really driven one of these. Well, I probably haven't driven one in 35 years, something like that. When I worked at the foreign car dealership, we would get them in occasionally, but I forgot how much fun they were, and especially the way you've built this one. And you and Hans are really the 914 guys. So if people have questions, if they want the calipers rebuilt, you guys can do them, right?
Yep, we're it.
So go to the website. Let's put his website up there again and check it out. And I'm sure if you just want to talk 914s, this guy will talk your ear off, believe me. Yeah. I've been getting it all day, but it's fascinating. It's really good. Eric, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for being such an enthusiast and keeping this brand. They're coming back, 914.
They are.
Yeah, they're very
here
cool.
To stay.
They're here to stay. Thanks, you guys. See you next week. I got to get one of these.
Mm-hmm.